Awesome. Okay, well, welcome everyone. Really excited to be here with Evan today. For those of you that are new to Raising Alchemy, I always like just to do a little bit of a spiel at the start so that you know what we're about. So Raising Alchemy is about inspiring a deeper connection to the spiritual child. And that is really around conscious parenting, but as well as our connection to our own inner child, because to be able to lead by example and live by example, to be able to inspire the potential in our own children, we also need to often go inwards as well and work on and with our own inner child to be able to achieve those results. So I am extremely excited and have been all day to welcome Evan to the platform and to be doing a live with Evan on conscious parenting and from a father's perspective. And Evan is a father of two beautiful children, a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old, a boy and a girl. And Evan, your background is really, really interesting, and I'd love to hear more about this. You have sector-specific knowledge which focuses on acute mental health. I've been working with young people and children, and you range from family therapy to trauma release. And I know you've got a reputation as a credible ambassador of conflict resolution and as a specialist behavioural management officer and high-level physical intervention instructor. And you work with many of the therapeutic models and therapeutic models and interventions. So you've also mentioned as well in your bio and to me that your children gave you the strength that you need to overcome your shadow self, and you finally allowed yourself to step into the light. And I think we both agree that they are the greatest teachers and will continue to be as we evolve and go forward. So Evan, I would love to hear more about your background and the sector knowledge that you have spoken of and the work you're doing now, maybe to kick us off with that.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on the show. It's a real honour.
Oh, it's an
And
honour for me.
I'm so excited about this, because obviously it's my first live, and I think for my first live, I couldn't have been asked to speak on a stronger topic that is so close to my heart, because this is everything really for me. So all of my work stems from this. So super grateful. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Hi to everyone that's watching, and to everyone that's watching the replay. Thank you for joining us and for investing your time in this space. Yeah, I suppose my background, the reason I got into mental health and kind of the care setting was a journey because of my upbringing and what I kind of experienced and what I went through as a young child, right? So it was almost like a journey of discovery for me. I became very passionate about working with young people and children that had kind of experienced trauma and been through various things in their lives, because I went through my own journey with that, and I really wanted to understand how to support people that were in that space. And I think, looking back now, it was a journey of me healing myself through that process. And I think a lot of the work that we do is based on our own healing. In fact, all of the work that we do has to come back to ourselves. Sometimes we go out of ourselves to find these answers in certain helping roles or teaching roles, or, whatever we can up our skill set and, start to earn and be part of this kind of circle. But really what it is we're just trying to understand ourselves better through that process. That's the way I see it.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Great. Keep going.
sorry.
There
No?
you go. So also 2005, you were
Mm-hmm.
hospitalised, and you were talking about another big layer emerging from there.
Yeah. So in 2005, that was around the time that I experienced a separation with my ex-partner and my two beautiful children. So we were all kind of together in the family home. Well, it was my ex-partner and my son, who was 2 years old at the time. And my daughter wasn't born yet. I mean, this was, I think, about a month before she was born when this happened. And due to the circumstances and the nature of what was going on, my ex-partner left, and obviously we were all uprooted, all of us. You know, it was very difficult for her to get up and leave this space because this was her home. It was my son's stable base. She was carrying my daughter, our daughter, and obviously for me it was like, you know, wow, right? So what happened in that space was, well, for me, I ended up in hospital, right? I remember clearly I was out on the train with my son, taking him to Oxford Circus in central London to go and buy him a toy and just have an outing with him a day. And I started to get these really tingly sensations down the left side of my body. And I almost became paralyzed on the train where the whole left-hand side of my body went completely numb, right? And I had like what I know now is it was like a minor stroke.
Wow.
So somehow I managed to get myself off this packed train with my son. I do not know how I did that because I couldn't even walk properly, right? My son had no clue what was going on at the time. And I took a moment to kind of try and center myself on the platform and continued. But then this happened again, right? Not so long afterwards, and it was really strong. So moving through that process, they were still here, and I ended up in hospital for 2 weeks, around 2 weeks, and these episodes got worse and worse, and this continued for about a month. They left within that period of time, so I didn't actually get to see them while I was going through this process. And you know, it got to a point where my whole body shut down. These things took over my whole body, left and right. My brain shut down a lot, and it was a really powerful experience for me where I just thought, that's it, I'm gone, you know, really. And I've experienced a lot of near-death moments and transitional moments in my life through various experiences, but this one was very different, right? And they couldn't find anything when they did their tests on me. So, you know, the doctor asked me about my lifestyle and what was going on, and he put it down to psychosomatic stress. And I was in agreement with him because where did this come from, right? And I think at that point, I had to really surrender myself because I couldn't work. I just fell into this hole, and I got taken out of the game, right? And left with myself completely. So during that process, I was forced to look at everything about myself because I couldn't do anything. So I landed back home with none of my family. I was on my own, literally in my bed, resting, and the children had been taken out of my life. My daughter was about to be born. There was all of this stuff going on, as you can imagine, and I could no longer work in the sector that I was working in because I just had no strength. So it was a really big moment for me, and in that moment, in that space, I was it was suggested to me by my sister to go and do some energy healing. And my background up until that point was therapeutic intervention, so very Western models, theoretical practices, which are great, right? Fantastic. But when I went to see this healer, I remember the first healing session that I had, and I just went like that. I mean, you know, really took off within one session and really committed myself in that space to my ongoing healing from a spiritual perspective. Now, I'd done loads of spiritual work before. I was no stranger to it, but I'd never had the experience of healing. And what happened for me in that space was I felt things being released from me that were very deep. I was able to go back and do some real strong ancestral clearing and healing and track back all of this stuff around relationships. And, you know, I woke up. Yeah, this really woke me up. So in that moment of despair where everything was gone and I felt that that was it, I felt so much hope, like I'd found myself and that everything was worth it, right? In the same moment, it was really insane how this kind of thing just happened, right? So I continued to work with this guy for about a year. I was going to see him every week. Sometimes, you know, I didn't even have the money. I was just going. I was like, I need, you know, really need this to continue because we were going really deep. And yeah, that's what kind of started my path around energy work and real deep spiritual healing work, if you like.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's incredible. It must have been quite a bit of fear arising from that as well, right? Especially with not having your children or with your son at that time, and not being active and able to be involved in that process as well.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, I was broken on all levels, completely lost, right? And just left hanging, right? And understandably so, because there was a lot of trust. There were a lot of trust issues that in my relationship with my ex-partner. Understandably so, you know. We both had our stuff, but I was not a responsible father. I was responsible to a degree, but there were things that I was doing, old patterns and old cycles that I was kind of experiencing and based on addiction, right? And that's a different thing because, you know, the energy of what kind of brought those things to surface in the relationship is a different story. And I'm not sure if I'm going to go there right now at this point, but just to kind of really give people an understanding, I wasn't this ideal role model, man, father figure for my children. I was learning, I was growing, I was falling, I was slipping, and they were getting caught up in, or my son most certainly was getting caught up in my process and my journey as he was with my ex-partners, because we're all human, right?
Mm-hmm.
So at the time when we split, I wasn't able to see my children. And there was no court order put in place or anything like this. It was a very much trust the process and see where we go, right? And bearing in mind, my daughter was about to be born too, so it was a very sensitive, tentative process. Yeah, so that was real difficult. Yeah,
Really difficult. So even sort of jumping to that co-parenting and conscious parenting and kind of combining it maybe as we go through, let me start by asking you, in this day, as we are now, what does conscious parenting mean to you? And, I guess just to back that question up, I know there can, with the human language and the human terms, sometimes I think we get caught up a bit in meaning of some of the words. And conscious parenting to me really isn't a label. I think it's very individual. I don't think it's a certain prescribed way of parenting. It's just something that I like to use to kind of describe and be able to formulate a question around that and what we mean, because I think it's really around the intuition and having awareness, and it means so much more than just the term conscious parenting. So what does that mean for you on your journey now with your children being older, the time you have with them, the time away from them, how that integrates?
Yeah, that's a big question, right? And it's a really good question. And I've been really sitting with this, and asking myself, what does it mean to me? Because we tend to do things, right? We do things and we just move through them. And that's essentially one of the aspects of what I want to speak on. But, I really, really got to look at this and embody the principle of what it means to me through this process. So thank you. I think, for me, consciousness is a state of awareness, right? This is what I feel, right? And I've always said this in everything that I do, whenever I teach people, whenever I train people, especially due to the nature of my work and my training, awareness must be your alias. It's got to be the number one thing, right? Because if you're not aware, then you're subject to feeling like a victim or being victimized to your surroundings, right? So, how can you be empowered? How can we be empowered if we're not aware of what's going on around us?
Mm.
And this is a thing because, like, we're never going to be fully aware of everything that's going around us. But I do believe the more clearer that we are, the more responsibility that we take for our own process, the more aware we become. And that's my truth. The clearer we become. And thus, the clearer we become, the more conscious we are, the higher our levels of consciousness raise. So I think, looking at this from a child's perspective, right? How do they learn and manage their energy around their surroundings? How? It's a skill learned over time, right? As a kid, how do you learn how to manage what's going on externally? I know as a child, I received loads. I was so switched on and awake, as many children are. And I know that I'm like super sensitive, right? And some are more so less than others. and I was seeing everything, feeling everything, but I didn't understand it, right? And these things weren't being explained to me, right? The experiences that I was seeing and feeling weren't being explained to me. And there was a lot of hiding and, you know, brushing things under the carpet and, you know, and oh, don't let them see this, and, you know, that kind of thing. But I was seeing it all and I knew it anyway, right? So this brings me on to the point, whose responsibility is it to teach children this? Whose responsibility is it to teach them how to manage the energy around their surroundings? It's ours, right? But we can't do that as responsible parents if we've got our stuff that's getting in the way. Because kids love boundaries and kids love clarity. That's what they need. As far as I'm aware, in my journey, as looking back on my own journey as a child, working in mental health at a very high level for years, and then bringing all of my knowledge and experience and my wisdom into my development of my children love boundaries and they love clarity. You know, it's our responsibility to mirror that back. That's the way I see it, right? And when a child is born, they're in such a pure state and they are so close to source. We know this, right? Many people know this. Is, you know, I'm saying the same thing that a lot of people say. I'm just saying it from my perspective, but it's my truth as well as what I know. Now, as adults, we're a little bit further down the path in life and we're carrying a whole lot of junk that we've accumulated over years of life experience, right? And we can get into like all the ancestral stuff and all the collective stuff and all the different soul path stuff if you want, right? But I don't really want to take it there because I want to keep this as present as possible for people that are watching this in real time, thinking about ourselves, because this always comes back to us, right? We can go as far deep as we want into soul connections, soul partnerships, ancestral stuff. But the truth is, it comes back to you, right? And to go into that kind of space of clearing that stuff, we have to understand ourselves first. So what I'm trying to say is, if we're in conflict with ourselves, how can we provide stability and clarity for our children? You know, because if we're in conflict with something, it means we're not understanding something, therefore we're not in alignment with something. And as far as I see and what I've observed so far in many different relationships, when I've been involved in the family therapy stuff and all the trauma release stuff, my own journey, my children's journey, and being a parent again, bringing it back to that, you know, when I've been out of alignment with myself, for whatever reason, it may be, so let's look at this from a practical perspective, it may be that I'm having there's some dissonance around a relationship with someone that I've got, maybe my mum, or who's amazing, right? But we're human, right? We all have our stuff, right? It may be that there's some energies coming in from another relationship or some work project, right, which is causing me to be triggered or keeping me in a state of process. Therefore, I'm not clear on that particular thing. So when my children come to me and they want something from their dad, because I'm not clear, I'm not present, not fully present. And if I'm not fully present with my children, I can't be clear, then the boundary is distorted immediately because there's no clarity. Therefore, my children know that. They know that. They hold me to ransom all the time. Dad, you're not listening. And I'm going, yeah, I'm listening. I heard what you said. No, Dad, I saw you. You were thinking about something else. I'm like, I can't move, right? Mirror. Right? Do you get that?
Yeah. Got it today. You have to own it, right? Because all I can say is, yeah, you're right, honey. I wasn't listening. I'm sorry. You know, just yeah. And it's often, I think it's funny. It's often, I don't know. You know, my daughter will be doing something, and I'll say something, and she'll reply, and I don't think she's really paying attention, but there's so much awareness there, right? And so as soon as I say something that she doesn't, know isn't in alignment with what she's saying, it's that whole, I'm not sure if I can even articulate it, but it's this energy or this, between us, and it's, she's just switched on, and it's almost like a facade, like sometimes it's not that I think she's testing me on purpose or anything, but she's like, oh yeah, you know, I'm just colouring over here, but I'm just waiting to see if you're going to respond because I just said something, you know, like yeah. So it's just, they just hold so much truth, and you know, you said so much, there was so much depth in what you said there, Ev, but you know, I think too, I've been really contemplating recently and observing recently of really, you know, a child comes into this world with so much joy, so much love, but also such a sense of deep playfulness. And I'm observing my daughter, and at times, like, I've gone through such waves of the feeling of just like quite a lot of sadness and I don't know, just such strong feelings around how much we suppress joy to children as they start to move through their life, and how much everything is a game, and you know, and I mean that in a good way, and everything is playful, you know, like we almost bring sometimes as adults this doom and gloom, and you know, this societal pressure. Whereas imagine how amazing the world would be if we were just continued to be inspired to be in our play and our playfulness, you know, like it's just.
Now you're talking the language. This is yes, right. And I think, you know, like, this is, you know, we are now pioneering the new age, right? We're pioneering the new paradigm, and this is why I've been so excited to do this live, because I think, firstly, as you quite rightly said, that, you know, fathers don't get that much opportunity to speak on these particular topics, and I've seen it so many times. And I'm going to jump back and forth because there's some other stuff that I want to kind of share on that I didn't quite close on. I get so much coming in sometimes, so please bear with me. But what needs to be said will be said. I think I've seen so many fathers fall and actually, you know, take their own lives, right? You know, really, really lose their whole purpose and clarity because they've been abused by women as well, that haven't understood how sensitive men are, right? And, you know, this is a thing here, because a man's representation is divine masculine, right? Essentially, right? Look, I'm a man. And, you know, this goes way back, right? You know, back to the tribal kind of days, if you like, or, you know, where we are, men are hunters and gatherers, right? We are responsible for, it's the archetype of a man, right? We go out, we take action, we build stuff, right? We go and get the food and we put it on the table and you eat it, and the woman cooks it and the woman nurtures, right? The archetype of the divine feminine is to nurture, hold, emotion, you know, really, really be in that space. And then I suppose they're supposed to come together in divine union and really feed each other, right? And we have these qualities within ourselves, don't we? We know this. We have the divine masculine and divine feminine. Mm-hmm. But what happens is, I think there's been a real distortion around how men perceive themselves, and also how women perceive men, because of how men have been perceiving themselves. So very quickly, men are very quick to put on a mask, right? And a facade, like, I am this big, strong guy, you know, look at me, right? Ego and strength, right? And exuberating this masculine energy, which is great, right? But underneath that, there is a real high, deep level of sensitivity and emotional awareness for most. And if you haven't tapped into that yet, I think the way that I did that and enhanced and elaborated on that was through the spiritual work that I've done and that I'm doing. So I just want to talk a little bit about my profile picture, because this morning I said to Natasha, right, I said, I don't know if I want to use that picture. I said, I look like a thug, right? like a thug, Natasha? And she was like, no, you're good.
That's true, right? It's like, and you know, it's what I said to you, like, it's okay. We just, you know, with, you know, souls and spirits in a human body, but essentially, as you say, we're both masculine and feminine, but, you know, there's a whole heap around that, right? The awakening process and coming into each, and there's balance happening, right? But, you know, I do think it's important for men to still be able to, if they feel like being a man or manly, or that perception of being strong, and that's fine. But it's what I can't quite remember what I said to you now, that like being that, you know, having that image and looking strong, but still having a feminine side is such a beautiful balance, you know.
Yeah, yeah, and you brought that into my awareness and really helped me to ground in that, right? Because I was like freaking out. I was like, I can't push the button and share it. It's not in alignment with me, right? Because this is the important bit, right? I'm going through a massive identity crisis, guys, right? It's big. Now, I'm always shifting, growing, and evolving. And I think I'm very in tune with my divine feminine energy at this moment, at this stage. When that picture was taken, I was strong in my masculine energy. And that's cool, but that was a moment captured in a snapshot of time and space. And consciousness, as far as I'm aware, is an awareness into flow, and it's an ongoing process of unfolding. So for me, the most important thing is to be able to stand in that space and be vulnerable, right? As a man, for me as a man, and own my vulnerability and say, look, guys, I'm having an identity crisis here. I'm shifting. Yeah, this is one aspect of myself. But now when you're watching this live, this is another aspect of Evan that you don't see behind the picture, right? Some people know it, but some people don't. And I'm just kind of urging and encouraging all men that may be watching this to really understand what this is now, because I think as fathers and parents, we've been neglected, and we can be shunned a lot of the time. And I, you know, really want to say this to the kind of men that are in this process that this resonates with. Don't be scared to be vulnerable. Don't be scared to be vulnerable and speak your truth and express yourself. And I think for me, the way that I was able to elaborate on that is I naturally drew in people that held me in a safe container. I didn't, you know, consciously do this. I suppose it was a subconscious thing, but the right people come in, we know this, and we get what we need. And those people that allow you to feel safe and stable are the people that will allow you to grow deeper into yourself. So just go with that, and just make sure that you're checking your support network and just really identifying where you are in your life and what support you need in your life at this stage. If you're a parent, or if you're just generally being a man in this journey of life and you feel that you're transitioning, then ask yourself, you know, are the people that are in my life supporting my development now? Do I need to make any changes? Am I stuck? You know, always sincerely inquire into yourself. You need to do your audit, your spiritual audit on where you are. No one's going to do it for you. God is not coming to save you. I'm sorry, right? This is what I believe, right? And I'm not getting into people's religious beliefs, but, you know, no one's coming to save you, right? You're the only person that is going to be able to save yourself. And that's how you shift from victim to empowerment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's and it's an ongoing process as well, right? And I think, you know, let's just elaborate a little bit on that more, because it's just curious for me. Like, I'm really curious, and you know, I just have to check in before I say something. But you know, let's go there with me. You know, you know, when you think of parenting, or you think of especially young children, you know, you do tend to think of the mother, or the mother kind of being like the lead carer. And some of that may come down to that first year of maternity leave, and if the mother breastfeeds, or they're predominantly the one that stays at home. But I am seeing it more and more often, you know, either people have 1 year at home and then, you know, the dad stays at home for a year, or the dad is to stay at home because the mother really enjoys working and going out to work, etc. But you know, I think for me, there's so much. I mean, it's probably another conversation, but you know, I found it really hard to let go of the control. So for me, having carried this child in my womb, within my body, that, you know, and part of this process, and we've spoken of this a little bit, is really me allowing to release the control and have trust, and actually even share that responsibility, if I were to be honest. Like, it's been a big process for me, especially stepping into the co-parenting, where I've actually had to allow and accept, and this is work of my own, a number of things there. One, you know, I can't get in the way of the relationship my daughter has with her dad, and nor should I. and he has every right, as a spiritual being, but as well as just a human here on earth, to share that responsibility with me. And I may not agree with decisions made and vice versa, but we need to start respecting each other in regards to that. And, you know, I've had to compromise, and sometimes it's still challenging for me, you know. And I think, you know, this whole perspective of parenting, where we've seen the mothers have that dominant role sometimes in regards to making decisions or being the one that's at home with the child. And how do you feel about that, in the sense of, do you see that changing? Would you like to see it change? And maybe about your, like, how do you co-parent? Because I know there's distance between where you both live, which is another element that's difficult, right?
Mm-hmm. So I just want to go back to thank you for sharing that so openly, right? You know, thank you for opening up with that. The control, right? The control comes from the fear, right? The fear of letting go, right? And as a mother, the way that I see it, you know, because I've really had to inquire into not just my own path, but my ex-partner's path, right? And women in general. It's really opened a lot of stuff up for me, this has. And this is consciousness, I think, you know, it's an awareness, right? Great awareness. You know, how can you release control? And how can you not be scared when you're carrying a child in your womb and you're giving birth to that child? That is your divine being that you're bringing into this world, right? And in and around that is a real container of protection, yeah, and nurturing from a mother's perspective. Forget the father's perspective for now, right? Let's honor women here and what this is for them, yeah? They're carrying that baby as a mother for 9 months in their womb. They've energetically connected to that child before it even came into their womb. But let's not go, right, so that process, yeah, that process of carrying and nurturing and feeling that connection, not just soul connection, but growth, physical manifestation over 9 months, and then the birthing process, how is it not going to leave you feeling like you need to be in control? And how are you not going to be feeling scared? It baffles me. I don't understand how anyone would be able to release themselves from that energy and those processes like that, right? It is a real process of honoring self. And I think as mothers, yeah, there were some things that my ex-partner has done which I didn't like, and it didn't feel correct because it was challenging me. But what I understand now is that, you know what, I honor that woman so much and I love her, right? From the perspective of my true self, from a real, you know, as the mother of my children, not a, you know, romantic love. That's finished now. We've closed that loop, right? But I love her true self, and the way that she brought my children up and everything that she did. Some of the stuff I didn't agree with, and some of the stuff that I did, she did not agree with. Right? This is different belief systems. This is different personalities, different ways of working with different people, right? But the way that she held my children, the way that she holds my children, she does things that I cannot do, right? Impossible, because she is herself and she's a mother, right? And I had to really understand that and let go of that. And the moment that I did that, I really started to honor her for the woman and the mother that she is. And I was able to release and remove judgment. Right? And the moment that I did that, you know, it was a ride, it was a journey, because I wanted respect and understanding immediately because I'd let go of it and release myself from it. Did I get that? No, right? Took a long time, a lot of tests, a lot of trials, a lot of tribulations, you know. Hold space, bro, hold space, it's coming. That's what was told to me. And then, you know, things unfold. In terms of our relationship, we have a really beautiful, harmonious relationship now. We don't speak that much. We talk about the kids. My ex-partner is in a relationship with someone. She's super happy. He's living in that space with her. I communicate with him. He's been a really powerful tool in regards to the collective healing of this family dynamic as well. I'm so grateful. You know, my children get on with him. He's a lovely guy. They're in that space with him every day. You know, everyone is held appropriately. Yeah, everyone. And I think, you know, my ex-partner is now starting to respect me more because I've put the work in and I'm continuously putting the work in. Trust, we said this in a bit, is built over time, and trust is not an immediate thing. And when there is trauma, you know, and there's dissonance, trust gets broken, and that has to be rebuilt. And in and around that trust that's broken, control and fear comes up. And you can't just trust someone when you're still working on releasing control and fear, because to get into forgiveness, you have to go into acceptance first. And when you get into acceptance, you can then go into forgiveness. But then here's the thing, when you go into forgiveness, you have to start being responsible for your actions. So it's a ride. Do you know what I mean? And that's very difficult, because being responsible for your actions, I think, is a process of, you know, what are you releasing? What are you letting go of? And now what are you bringing in? You know, what, because life is constant. It's a flow. You can't just continue with the same way of being. Not when you're a really expansive being. There is so much movement in it.
Yeah, and I hear you there, you know, and then on a different level, the forgiveness, the work I had to do in forgiveness of forgiving, from me being able to have forgiveness for my ex-partner. I've done a lot. It's, you know, this has been a 2-year process, but that forgiveness for me had to come first from a being perspective, you know, really seeing from highest self to highest self, or from that being as is. And then I went through the process of a really deep acceptance with that. And I think one of the things that, you know, and I've come full circle now, and almost I'm going through like even more of layers of actually realizing a lot of things that I was angry around and blaming, even though I believe I took on and resolved a whole heap of my own shit, like, to be blunt about it, you know. I now see so much clarity, like just in the last month or so, of how much more I need to, you know, I can't, none of it, I can't push any of it out, you know, like, I have to own all of it, because it's how I respond, it's how I'm triggered, how I, you know, everything around that co-parenting relationship now is, you know, I can't outwardly point the finger at anything. I can't, regardless of what happens to me or who's said to me or whatever. Like, I've got to own all of that. And it's a really big process to move into. And I think I've definitely gotten to a place now of, I'm just really deep in gratitude. You know, I just am so grateful. And I wouldn't have been able to say that 2 years ago at any sense or form, you know. And but part of that is this, as part of that is that, you know, that inner child involvement, the co-parenting, and it's putting the children first. And I know a lot of people say that, but you have to go really deep with that, right? Like, it's not just about ensuring their needs are met. Like, they are such emotional beings, and they have such strong sensory and feelings and intuition, and you know, you can't say to them everything's okay, because they know straight away. You know, they can sense, you know, between the, you know, passing children between one parent to the other or whatever. Like, it's, yeah,
Really,
there's so
really,
much there. Yeah,
so much. And you know, you're right, because I love what you said about, you know, taking responsibility and not blaming anyone anymore, because I think, is it on the 15th of August, we're going into 1,000 times consequence and 1,000 times reward, right? It's happening
yeah,
despite what we may think it is happening. And I've had some really powerful experiences, things that are so subtle that have just gone bang, right, over the past few days. And I'm like, okay, right, there is no escape anymore. That's it. You know, the mirror is here.
yeah.
There is no more time for blame. And I think, you know, it's great, because we're being forced into a choice. You know, which path do we take here? That, you know, as the collective kind of rises and the energy comes through, you know, there's a clear choice. You know, which way are we going to go? You know, which path do we want to choose? Now, how do we want to live? You know, and you're either a pioneer of the new age, or the new paradigm. You know, we're really doing this work, or you're staying stuck, and it's going to be really painful for people that aren't willing to take responsibility for themselves. And it's a journey, right? There's no, you know, this is a process for everyone. We're all in it, because we're all human. And so but I think having the awareness around what's going on with the collective stuff really helps me, really helps me. And I think, you know, when we're in that space with our children, if we're offering confusion over clarity, it creates disharmony and dissonance. That's where it's formed, right? And if we're confused, we're in conflict within ourselves. So therefore there's no clarity. And I believe that this is where sub-personalities are formed through various aspects and experiences over time. You know, this is where our sub-personalities are formed. And then the sub-games that we play, or the children play, support the personality that's been formed. And essentially that these are the masks that we put on, or people put on, that hide their true self. That's what these sub-games are, I feel, right? And I think, you know, this is where we see so many different addictions born, or mental health issues, you know. And I've done a lot of work around this, and, you know, some people say, you know, mental health is a real thing, as in, you know, it's a medical diagnosis. It's this because of an imbalance in the brain, and it needs to be medicated and treated appropriately. And I've seen both sides. And what I mean by I've seen both sides, I've seen the extremities of both sides. I've seen, you know, the very high level mental health stuff, and I've seen the cognitive dissonance that's kind of been pulling people towards that space where they haven't been able to cope in life, but they're still active, but there's a real kind of line that they could cross. And I've been, you know, in these spaces in myself for my own journey, which we just don't have time to go into all of it now. But what I'm trying to say is that as conscious parents, I think, look, it's difficult because when we have kids, are we fully realized? Like, you know, if you are, then you know what? You're amazing. And I love you, and I'm super happy for you. Congratulations, because your children's lives are going to be, you know, I think a bit more of a smoother ride. No one, you know, I'm not going to get into life path stuff and soul, because you never know, right? There's many different aspects here. But in terms of the container that you're creating for your children, that's a good look. But generally, for the people that are listening, for me, for you, you know, do we come into this contract that we create with our children fully realize? No, we don't. We don't. So, you know, it's a real thing here. Let's really ground this, you know. This whole talk of consciousness and conscious parenting can be way out there sometimes for people, because I think, like, you know, everyone looks at other people and thinks, you know, where are they? Oh my God, they're up there. Well, they have this awareness, they have this knowledge, they've done this work. Well, you know what? There's no right or wrong time. We are where we are. And the only thing that I would say to people that's listening, that is either just starting on this path or that's really in tune with this, you know, is to kind of really look at where you are in yourself. And the key thing for me has been continuously work on myself. That's it.
That's all you can do, right?
Yeah. And then, you know, as a result of that, we're able to be a lot clearer and really reach our children and be more present with our kids.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a big thing, and this is something that I like, I do bring up a lot, and I think it's important, and it's this whole, there is no perfectionist parenting, and I feel so passionately about that, because conscious parenting, or even just being, however you want, and I'm reluctant sometimes to say awake, because I believe we all are. It's just whether we have that consciousness around it, but it doesn't mean that you're this perfect parent, and it doesn't mean that, I'm certainly not, and in fact, I think it actually highlights more that we need to work on. And I've said this before in a live, I think the more you're acutely aware of your triggers, or what needs to be resolved, or you're open to these layers coming off, the more that is exposed. And I think one of the important things is, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, especially around your experience with the mental health, is showing that, the emotion and then the feelings, and being real around your children, and sort of allowing them to realize that it's okay, and that I'm not perfect. And I know with myself, if there's moments where I don't feel like I've, and I would be honest, I still beat myself up. I'm a perfectionist around a lot of things, and so I want to be that perfect mother. I know I'm not, and I know I don't have to be, and I forgive myself for that, and I'm okay with that at times, and sometimes I'm not. And I talk often with my daughter. She's 4, for those that haven't seen much of the lives or me speaking of her, but so she's still young, but we sit and we talk about everything that's happened. We talk about how she was feeling over another situation, or or the why, and we communicate. But it's definitely not around being a perfect mum or dad, or, you know, we're still human and we're here to experience that human. And, you know, I remember someone saying to me, you know, if we had it all worked out, we wouldn't be here anymore. Like, my cat's
Yeah.
you know, and that's true, right? We're here for that experience. We're here to grow and learn and expand, and to help everyone along that journey, and then for us, you know.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I think it's really important. Like what I'm feeling now, what's coming in is about just showing up, right? Just
Mm.
showing up and doing your best, right? And I love what Jason says. Jason Estes, what he says, you know, about just, you know, being good, having faith, showing up and enjoying the ride, you know,
Yeah.
because that's what it is. It's really, there's so much stuff coming in, but I think if you have the firm intention and desire to be a better person every day, and you're around people that are kind of encouraging and supporting that growth and development in you, then you're good. You know, it's no more complicated than that. There are so many complex principles and things, right? Which are all I believe is all the junk that we've kind of picked up, right? Because you spoke about this in the beginning. You were speaking about children being such a state of joy, such a
Mm.
state of harmony and play, right? And we come in and we bring this black cloud of energy. No, you're not allowed to do that. You must do this. Enough. Do this. Do that. What are you doing? Don't speak that loudly. Shh, you're too loud. And the kids are like, what the hell is going on, man? Just let me breathe, man. Do you know what I mean? You know, so I always think to myself, I ask myself these questions, right? So when I'm working with people, children in mental health, if I'm training teachers, if I'm training psychiatrists or any kind of medical professional or therapist or whatever, I always ask myself this question before I step into that space, right? What am I trying to teach my children? What am I trying to teach the person that I'm working with? But the answer comes back to me. What am I intending to teach myself? Yeah. How am I trying to hold myself here? Because I'm as human as that person that's standing in front of me, regardless of their status, regardless of their experience. I've worked with people that have been top end, right? And I've come in from a training perspective that's got a lot of life experience, but nowhere near as qualified as these people. And they've been cold, closed, and very rigid, because I think it's a thing sometimes when people are quite qualified or highly qualified, opening someone up to someone up that's underneath them in a sense, right? Well, I know this, and I, you know, that ego and arrogance can come through. And within half an hour to an hour of training, I've had them completely open, right? Completely open. Why? Because I'm speaking the language of the heart, and they're human. So there's no separation, no divide. So again, vulnerability is key, right? It's easy to give birth to something. How we nurture that very thing is a different story, right? That is a process. And this definitely comes back full circle to how we nurture ourselves.
Mm. Beautiful. Yeah.
And with my children, so just I want to just share a little bit on this as well. How long do we have left, Natasha?
We're fine. Just a minute.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay. So I just want to kind of share this. You know, all of my experience in mental health, all of the therapeutic models that I've been trained in, all of my life experience, all of my qualifications, all of the high-end work that I may have perceived to have done, when it came to my children, it was nothing, right? It really, really was. It was completely different to how I implemented these strategies and was able to help support other people, facilitating change in their lives from a professional perspective, because there was a different boundary. With my children, I was completely open in the beginning. It was, everything went out of the window. Everything that I knew was, it just felt like it wasn't there, right? I was just like, wow, you know, my son would have the most insane disassociated episodes, which I'm heavily trained in, more than adequately equipped to hold space and work through, right? I've worked through some real high end stuff with people, right? That involve like high levels of self-harm and, you know, some really, really nasty stuff, right? In real time. But when it's my son, my 2-year-old boy, when he's been sobbing from his heart, Daddy, I don't want to go. Why do I have to leave? I want to live with you. Like, you're being so horrible. and just closing down like that, it was the biggest challenge for me because my heart was completely open. And how I had to hold space for him was just insane. And then he would go from that space to, you know, becoming quite angry, right, as he got older. And how I had to hold space for that was a completely different thing, right? So constantly reflecting on myself and how I'm processing in real time what's right for him. And the way I was able to work through that with him and create value for him and allow his growth was by asking him, what do you need? Mm. What am I doing wrong, darling? Is there something that I'm doing that you don't like? Yes, you're asking me too many questions. It's really noisy and I'm so angry and I can't hear. Okay, cool. So do you want me to be quiet? Yes. Okay. So do you want me to leave the room or shall I stay with you? He goes, you can stay, but don't say anything. So I'm then they're guiding me, right? In a real high level scenario, they're still telling you but you have to ask. You have to ask from your heart, you know? So that's been a real ride, you know, and I think, you know, we have all the answers, but sometimes for me, in terms of like high level scenarios with children or taking it back to the lowest level, it comes back to the same principle of really centering in your heart and trusting them and asking them what they need rather than you thinking, I know what you need because I'm your dad and I'm 40 years old and this is my experience. Because you will get crushed if you think that way. They will crush you.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that. And I've started to adopt that as well, like just asking. And I think more when they're so in that state of emotion or high feeling, sometimes they just want you there, right? It's not so much, you know, I do ask as well. I think that's a great example. But it's really, yeah, it's so important just to, my main one is whether do you want me to stay here or do you want me to leave the room? Because sometimes, you know, and almost always it's to stay, right? They just want to be able to process with you being there. But yeah. It's so powerful.
Sometimes he kicks me out though, you know, he just shuts the door because he's 7 now. So he's getting to that age where he wants a bit of alone time too. just let him have his space. After an hour, I'll go and check in. Yeah, I'm fine, Dad. Let him be. You know, it's a process, and I think, it's a real process. Yeah.
How do you play with them and kind of, you know, I think a lot of the conscious parenting discussions I've had, it's really been quite a strong theme, and even I know with myself, you know, nothing's ever forced or these, you know, deep conversations or spirituality isn't really, you know, it's not like we sit in a circle and meditate, you know. I just wondered, because my daughter's younger, you know, so how do you incorporate this conscious living with your children? And is it as simple for you as just being, or are there other things that you use?
Yeah, I'm so happy you asked this question. That's been a real thing for me, right? Because I have practices and I have things that I do to maintain my kind of spiritual state. And when my kids come, that's the thing, because obviously my kids aren't with me full time, as you know, right? So when they're with you in the environment full time, there's a different flow to how you integrate and work with your life because it's all one. You're in that space constantly. When my children land, it's like everything about my life and the way I live seems to be challenged and gets pulled up because I have to almost put on a different hat. So I'm the same person when I'm not with them and with them, but the things that I do and my routine changes slightly because I have to have flexible boundaries for them. So what I might do now in my time that works for me, which I feel that they'll benefit from, I have to check in around that and look at that and maybe change some of that stuff because it doesn't work for them, you know? But generally, I think I don't hide things from my children. So when I'm doing something, I'm really clear on what I'm doing. Daddy's going to have a bit of quiet time to do some meditation or some healing work. Oh, what healing work are you doing, Dad? On yourself? Or have you got someone that you're doing healing on? Well, I've got someone that I'm doing healing on in the bedroom, so the door's going to be closed. Are you doing crystal healing today? So they ask the questions. They know.
Yeah.
My son loves crystals. My daughter loves crystals. I introduce things to them, right? So there's that thing that Jason shared on. We done a fantastic video, introduction versus force. And I think, you know, he was predominantly talking about the way we introduce ourselves to something, right? But also in how I've related that into my children is just gently introducing things to them without trying to force these things upon them.
Yeah.
They know what I do, right? If I try and push that, they tell me, Dad, no, I don't want to know. I'm busy. Leave me alone. And I know, nah, don't impose that on them because they know it's there. It's introduced. That's enough. You know, the other day they came into my room and they were like, Dad, can we do crystal healing? I was like, you want to do crystal healing? They were like, yeah. I want to get on your healing bed because I've never been on it before because I haven't, right? And I want to do crystal healing. Can you put some crystals on my tummy? So Fabian got on the bed, did some crystal healing with him. Lily, oh my God, she was putting the crystals on him intuitively. She knew exactly where they were going. So I think there's various aspects that they know, you know, that they connect to. I usually have like a team meeting with them, depending on the energy. I like to have it in the morning once a day. I call it our little team meeting, where it's like a debrief. Sit down, me, my mum, my two children, and we talk about the plans for the day. Gently, sensitively, we talk about where we are emotionally and how we're feeling, but not too heavy on the therapy stuff, right? Just what are we grateful for? 5 things that we're grateful for. Fabian, go, competition. 5 things that you're grateful for now. And then Lily's trying to interrupt him, and then he's like, Lily, be quiet. I'm doing my gratitude. It's my turn. I'm like, yeah, brilliant.
It's a great thing to be arguing over.
Exactly, right? And then there's managing the energy around that, and then they're getting excited about these kind of principles. And then, you know, I take them into the garden, I build stuff with them. You know, we cook together, we go out for walks, we play, man. You know, they're very high creatives. Fabian's very intuitive, super intuitive, this kid, man. I've never seen anything quite like it. And he's very technical. He understands how to take things apart and put them back together. I can't even do what he does. He's 7, right? Lily is like a little fairy, right? She just flies, floats around, and nothing's a problem. Everything's cool. So she just creates magic wherever she goes. She's just an alchemist. She's like, manifest. And so learning how to engage the kids around what works for them is an ongoing thing. You know what I mean? Yeah. What about? Can I ask you about Lily, your daughter?
Yeah.
How do you work with her?
Yeah, again, I've never really introduced her to anything other than just having things around the house. But she's just, I mean, she's you know, all kids are. I mean, she's creative and she loves arts and colour, and she's just so connected with animals. So the cats, she's just constantly connecting with the cats, like really deep. You know, one of my cats, we've got 2, they're brothers, but he and her are just, there's such a special relationship, and I think it's really important. Like he just follows her around the house all day, and she talks to him and they play. But yeah, my Lily, I love that. Same daughter, same names. Laughing about this. She loves card decks. So really, if we're talking about tools and things that are, you know, that we have around the house, and not so much connected with crystal. She did go through a stage which was really cute, where I'd go into the room and I'd see her kind of pillow like this, and I'd lift them up and there'd be a massive rose quartz and a massive amethyst, and she'd have them under her pillow, and she was adamant she was going to sleep on them, and you know, they kind of been very comfortable, but she would sleep on them, and that's what she wanted to do, you know. But card decks, fairy card decks, oracle cards, she will often have them surrounding her. And I've never given her a card deck. She just goes into my room or wherever they are, and she gets them, and her latest thing is putting in the card to match the book, whether, you know, and I just have started asking questions. You know, she wants to know what she thinks the picture may mean, and I ask her what she thinks it means, and it's just that interaction of back and forth that, you know, just the nature play and everything. But I think it's important, not, as you say, it's that whole introduction of just, you know, what they feel is yeah. I just think it's fascinating though that they do have this connection with tools that we consider spiritual tools. We kind of have a label for what they are, as such, I guess, but that they're just so drawn to it. I got Lily a PNR, although I haven't attuned it to her. And part of it was more I just wanted to see that there's something, you know, like a lot of things get, you know, put places and part of their toolbox and stuff. But what I find quite fascinating with it is she treats it with the most ultimate respect. So even the crystals get, you know, buried amongst toys and things and stuff. And the PNR, for some reason, she loves, and I can't now remember what the back is. I've got one here, but the back end, the one with the squares and stuff on, she really resonates with that. And, you know, I don't know, I just, you know, something in that. I feel like she really, there's something with it that she treasures and treats with respect, and that's up on her dresser, and we put it under her pillow at night. And I guess that's kind of a thing that I always ask if she'd like to and if she wants to, and often she'll go and get it herself. But I just think that always I just love observing that and how they naturally are drawn to the energy of things, right? It's just, yeah, incredible.
This is fascinating that you brought this up, because I was just literally about to push the button on the to buy the PNRs on Jason on the MTVO Void Space Text site, right? And I'm having this discussion with my sister because we know what's about to happen. There's going to be a massive influx, and there's not going to be tech's going to be quite hard to get, right? For a little while, because of so many orders coming through. So me and my sister were like, how many do we get? How many do we need? And she was like, well, I want one. I was like, yeah, I want one. And she was like, okay, well, that's two. And she was like, well, Fabian needs one. I was like, he needs one, because Fabian is, you know, that's confirmed, right? Higher self, highest confirmed. My mum definitely, you know, will benefit from one, and will definitely use it, absolutely. But I'm like, Lily, she's like 5. Do you know what I mean? Everything. But I'm going to get her one. I'm definitely going to get her one now, and just introduce it to her, because I know that there'll be time for her to kind of tune into that.
Yeah, as I say, I haven't, you know, she would easily, I could attune it to her personally. I just don't feel, I just haven't felt like that is something that needed to happen. Yeah, I'll probably speak to her about that. But yeah, it's pretty cool. I love observing how they naturally, you know, have this respect for this amazing technology as well, right? Like, yeah. And I think part of it too is, you know, it's just the tool. It's a tool, right? And it's hard, I think, with children sometimes, because we can sit with and learn from and work out, you know, without the dependency on it or what it brings. But teaching that to a younger child is quite difficult, I think, sometimes, to that concept of, you know, but I just like just watching, observing, and seeing how they work with it. And yeah, it'll be interesting as the years go, how whether she decides that she doesn't want to play with it anymore, and maybe that's her saying, well, I've learnt what I've needed, you know, like, yeah, super interesting. Hey, Evan, so just, I guess, just to wrap up a little bit, what would be your key, I don't know, maybe paragraph or blurb of any fathers here that kind of feel maybe they haven't been seen or haven't been heard, or I don't know, advice or what you feel from your heart would be something that you just want to maybe summarize or wrap up in, or say to dads?
Yeah, good question. I think I've pretty much shared a lot around this, and to kind of summarize, I would just say, you know, that it's really important for you to feel like you're in the right space with the right people supporting you around the aspects of parenting. So, you know, there is a lot of support out there, you know, and it's really important to find the right people to support you in that process if you're feeling like you're on your own in this. I had and still have tremendous support, you know. I haven't really spoken on that subject, you know, but I've had tremendous support from my mum, you know, who's been my guiding light behind me the whole way through. Yeah, I've been falling apart at times, right? But my mum is strong and sometimes very strong. But I love her for that. That's just my mum, right? But her heart is ridiculous. Her level of insight, and she's every step of the way she's been guiding me, you know. And there's been a thing around that because I've had to kind of really look at that as I've stepped into my power and released that kind of contract with my mum as well, as we've released each other from it. But my point is that it's really important to have people around you, whether it's your mum, whether it's a friend. I think support networks now, more so than ever, whichever way you choose to go, are absolutely crucial, because the time of being alone and doing this on your own is no more. We are stepping into a new state of unity consciousness for those that are aware of the collective stuff that's happening. But for those that are not, you know, that may be watching this, basically we're coming together, right? Humanity is coming together as a whole. Therefore, this lone worker, lone wolf kind of, I'll do this on my own mentality has got to go, because it just won't work anymore. So, you know, seek the support, reach out, and it's okay to be vulnerable and it's okay to ask for help. It really is.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. I think too, you know, there's a lot of um, females out there, myself included, Miss Independent over here, want to do it all by myself, who are also learning, you know, that support. No, it's true. That support network. It comes from stubbornness as well, I think. And those that know me will be laughing. But you know, it's. I think too, in general, we need to learn to be able to ask for help, right? And to, you know, I mean, I've really put intention out there now to meet more people, and that's starting to snowball, and I'm really expanding my circle, and I love that. And I have, you know, very close friends and lots of support in that aspect, and they've all just been brilliant and amazing. But I think it's really important to be able to ask for help, right? Because gone are the times where we need to feel shame or you know, scared of vulnerability, and I think that's why some of these discussions for me, I know what that there is. This is why a lot of these discussions are so important for me, is because we need to get better at saying, hey, I'm not okay, or hey, you know, I'm having a hard time, or just this facade of that everything is okay has got to break down. You know, it's so important. So yeah, thank you. I think just that advice is so pertinent, especially at the moment, as you say. So and so is there anything else you want to share before we wrap up?
Yeah, actually, very quick, I just wanted to say, you know, a really big thank you to my parents and to all my ancestors, you know, that have gone through this journey of life and allowed me to come into fruition, right? And obviously, you know, we have soul paths, and you know, who knows, you know, who your parents were in past lifetimes, etc., and this kind of thing. But my parents that are current in this lifetime, you know, such an honor to have been through this journey with you and to be born through you. And I thank you sincerely from the bottom of my heart for everything that you have taught me, good, bad, and all of the experiences that have been difficult, all of the experiences that have been full of joy and love. I embrace them all, and I just want to really honor you for everything that you've worked through and everything that I've worked through, and how we are now as a combined family unit. I couldn't be more happier. So real honor and gratitude to my parents, to both of you. I love you both sincerely, mum and dad. And a real massive shout out to Jason Estes and MTVO. and the work that they're doing, because, you know, I have been doing spiritual work for years, and I'm no stranger to it. But since I've started to do Jason's work, my growth has been exponential, and I've just really woken up on a different level with different layers of truth. So anyone that, you know, is seeking to work on this path, I think that's a really good place to start. You know, you're watching some of Jason's videos, some of his lives, and some of his stuff, and you can find him on his YouTube page MTVO, or on his Facebook Jason Estes. And you know, he's a profound person in my life personally, and complete respect and gratitude to have him in my life as well, guiding me through this process. So thank you to Jason. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and as you know, I really resonate with a lot of his teachings as well. Yeah.
Great. And a big thank you to you for asking me to come on as well. Thank you.
It's been such a privilege to have you here. It's just been amazing. And yeah, I'm sure there'll be another discussion in the pipeline. Yeah. There's always a lot coming through. And just in regards to people that might want to follow you or get in touch or find out more about the work that you do, we'll post the links when I tidy the live up on Facebook. But is there any shout outs or anything you want to mention? You're happy with people following you or getting in contact?
Good shout. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I have my own kind of healing practice, and I do a lot of other bits and pieces in and around that healing stuff. So my kind of website's in development at the moment. So many things going on, running 3 companies. It's too busy. So it's all happening. But yeah, for sure. Please contact me on my Facebook page if you want to. Add me. I'm so grateful for my new network as well, that's developing and that's unfolding, and as my identity shifts and comes into more of an alignment, if you like, because I'm seeing all these beautiful people and new relationships on my feed and my wall, and it is just feeding and nourishing my soul. So please feel free to add me, and that would be a great honor for me as well. And any messages, anything that I can support anyone with, don't be afraid to reach out. Honestly, I'll get back to you as soon as I can.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, we'll post links there so people will be able to find you. Yeah, that's all from me. Thank you so much for your time. It's been so amazing to talk to you, and as always, I just get so many insights and perspectives, and it's been so great to have that masculine or male energy talking on this topic. I've been really excited, so it was beautiful. So thank you so much.
Yeah, it's been a real beautiful process of connection and meaning, right? I think, well, and thank you for being so open to having this masculine energy on your show.
And honestly, I've said this to Evan at the start, and those that have watched some of my lives, I'm not one to be. I don't check Facebook. I really love to just have my focus and my intention on the person that I'm having a discussion with. But if you have any questions or you have posted questions, thank you for those that are live. I can see there are people there. Thank you so much for joining us live. For those that are watching the replay, any questions you have for myself, Evan, comments, queries, anything, we will reply. So please do post in the comments below, and we will get back to you when we can. Yeah, if not immediately. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah, super excited to see Raising Alchemy raise as it is. I'm really excited to see you blossom, because it's happening, and it's such a powerful platform. So I'm going to do my best to really support what you do much as I can. Anything at any time, and I'm saying this live, is there from my heart, right? And I can't wait to have you feature on our platform at some point, Million Doors Movement platform, where we would love to have you on our show speaking on something as well. So can't wait for that.
Oh, warm fuzzies. All right, love. We'll talk soon. Bye.
Thank you, Tasha. Bye.